James Cook. He took note of the Saquon Barkley extension yesterday and big money going to Barkley. Worth pointing out, we got into it a little earlier this morning, Barkley's percentage of the cap is second in the NFL behind McCaffrey. So while he's biggest money in contract history, it's actually second in percentage of cap. McCaffrey got a bigger deal last year.
From when they signed.
Signed. Right. That happens all the time. There's going to be a receiver that signs. T. Higgins is going to get the second biggest contract in history at receiver, maybe, if he does hit the free agent market, which he'd have to sign his franchise. But you know what I'm getting at. And it will be like 9th all time in percentage of cap.
Yeah.
So that's how it usually goes. We got numbers on the Shakir deal, but we want to talk about James Cook.
So he tweeted 4 times yesterday?
Yeah.
4 times. The first was the eyeball emojis.
In the words of Zach Jones of the Extra Point Show and the Nightcap, he's tweeting like a wide receiver. He's making. He's going.
Well, we were told to think of him like a wide receiver once upon a time.
You know what? We were told to think of him like a pass catcher. That's right. He is a pass, and he is one.
Yeah. So eyeball emoji over the first Schefter tweet about Barkley signing a deal. Then over the Pat McAfee comment about the average per year, it's him with the shrug emoji, right? Then it's more, now it's Ian Rappaport talking about the Barkley deal, and Cook quote tweets that with good business, space, then exclamation point. I don't think that's meaningful.
Hold on.
Just
let me dig into that.
I noticed that.
The space before the exclamation point.
Yeah. Might just be poor punctuation on his part.
No.
He wants you to see the exclamation point.
Yes,
it stands out a little bit more when you separate it from the word.
That's right. He's saying he appreciates good business to the point where he's going to leave space for the X. Anyway, go ahead.
And then he quote tweets NFL Network's video saying, "Payday for Saquon Barkley" with "I love you, Buffalo, red heart, blue heart." And
Think about that.
And that was the end of his series of tweets.
Imagine for a moment you see if I put it this way, if I see a story, a tweet, anything, and I screenshot it or quote tweet it to my wife and say, "Love you, honey," with that, she's going to think, "What do you mean by this? What's this? Am I supposed to buy this for you? Is this what you want?" Right? That's how this works. By quote tweeting Saquon Barkley's big contract and saying, "I love you, Buffalo," that's him saying, "This is what I want. This is what I want for Christmas," right?
Yeah.
The sacred, "I sent you a link for what I want." That's "I love you, Buffalo." Let me tell you what I would do if I was Brandon Beane in this spot, right?
Yeah.
I would go to my X Twitter account, and I would click on profile. How do you get to mute? If I were Brandon Beane, I would mute James Cook, and I would mute the words James Cook, and I would not pay attention to any of it. None of it. Couple reasons. One, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You have my number, man. You can call me. Your agent can call me. Maybe your agent's calling me every day. The Bills, it's the same story with a lot of this stuff. This is true with Diggs. It's true with everything. You don't have to pay attention to any of this. You don't have to care about anything that somebody writes on the internet about a contract.
Or who he's following on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because that was out there, too, a couple weeks ago.
How far off is what Cook's doing? How far off is that from wishing someone a happy birthday on Facebook? Like, you could just call the person. You could just, I've got your number. And for Cook, I don't think he's going to get 15. I don't want the Bills to pay him 15. I do think he is a very dynamic player and a very good player, and he is potentially ready to step into one of the best backs in the league. And again, that's a credit to Joe Brady. Like, what the Bills' offense has built is an offense that gets results from a couple players and doesn't get results from others. But Cook and Shakir are the two that really flourish under Joe Brady.
Yep.
And the 6 offensive linemen and the way they run the football and the way that Cook gets to the second level and he's gone. Didn't Cook have the second? You had numbers on this. Average length of touchdown?
Yeah.
Saquon was 30 yards, and Cook was maybe the second.
Saquon was number 1 by a lot, and then maybe Cook was second. I got to look that up again. But he was not just piling up. Jamal Williams was this a couple years ago. He had the most touchdowns rushing in the NFL.
It was all 1-yarders?
They were all from the 1-yard line, and I remember looking at the numbers that year and seeing he had like 40 carries from inside the 5. It's like the guy it was completely fake how many touchdowns he had scored. Whereas Cook, right, like Cook is averaging 16 yards a touchdown.
That's nuts.
So yeah, he had a couple from inside the one, but then he had 4 from the 40. He had a couple from 20 yards out. Like he was not just a merchant of goal line touches.
He and Barkley have something in common where they're the backs on the team that doesn't need them on the tush push, doesn't need them at the goal line.
Right. And another team, well, on another team, maybe he doesn't get as many scoring opportunities, but, you know, if the Bills had a different mentality, if McDermott said before the year, we're not doing tush push, injury risk, I don't want to put Allen through that, so we're just going to give the ball to James instead of doing tush pushes at the 1 and the 2 yard line. He might have scored 25 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
Right? Allen, he scored 16 with Allen scoring double digits the way he did. I think he's a good player.
I think he's a very good player.
All that being said, like I feel like every day that's passing, I am more and more team just, let it go into the season. Don't even talk to him.
Yeah.
And maybe that's happening. I mean, maybe his Twitter activity is not negotiating the media. Maybe it's waving his hands at the Bills saying, hey, I'm over here. You're not paying any attention to me. Maybe the Bills don't want to. Maybe the Bills... It wouldn't be stunning to me if their attitude, despite how they talk about him, would be, we just want him to play out the final year of his contract, and we'll just take it as it goes.
Yeah,
maybe next year we'll do something, but maybe they have no interest in even talking about it this summer. That wouldn't be stunning.
And then you could franchise tag with the interest of signing a deal. That's what Dallas just did with that defensive tackle. He was franchise tagged. Diggy Zua. He was tagged. And then he signed a deal that was, hey, listen, all right, we got this baseline. If we don't come to a deal, you get 1 year, $13 million or whatever for Cook, the franchise tag. But let's talk. That's a good starting point. Where they are now, he makes very little. So, okay, we don't even have to guarantee you the $13 million on the franchise tag. My guess is the Bills are coming in a lot lower because from a leverage standpoint, Cook just doesn't really have any. So I'm not against keeping Cook. I'm not against paying him a good number. I'm not going to 20. I don't think the Eagles should have paid Barkley. I'm also the one out here with my hand up saying, I'm not trying to tell you Saquon Barkley is overrated or not that good, but I do think his effect on the Eagles has been overrated. They were in the Super Bowl 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. They've been good the whole time.
They also won the Super Bowl with him doing, he was terrible in the game.
In part because the Chiefs focused on stopping him.
Okay, right.
And that's great. He was important. I'm not trying to tell you anything other than that. But if the Eagles had to go into a playoff game without one of two players, A.J. Brown or Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown would be a much bigger loss. They did not lose a game this year that Brown and Jalen Hurts played. Yeah. Brown is their more important player. I would not have paid Saquon Barkley $20 million if I'm the Eagles, but whatever, that's me. Derrick Henry had just as good a year as Saquon. He was amazing.
He's on the books for $7 million, I saw this year.
$7 million?
$7 million. I mean, he might get a pay raise.
He might. So I wouldn't worry about Cook. I would mute the stuff on Twitter. I would not bother with it.
But as Joe Marino pointed out earlier in the day anyway on our show, he's not those guys.
Yeah.
He is not Barkley. He is maybe, I think he's a great runner. I think he has developed into a great runner. His vision is awesome. He's gotten a lot faster, I think, since the beginning of his career. He's more powerful than at the beginning. He creates yards after contact more than you would think for his body type. He beats guys to the edge. He can run away from them. He has great vision. Always seems to make the right decision on that front. So as a runner, I got check. But he's not on the field all the time. And the reasons for that, when you're not as good of a pass blocker, or when I can't have you on the field on my final drive of the season because I've got to go tie the game I got to go take the lead against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and you can't be on the field because I can't trust you to pick up a blitzer, that should come secondary for who your starting running back is, I think. But I'm going to pay you with that hole in your game. And it hasn't gotten any better. He came into the league with that deficiency, and they still don't trust him to do it.
Right, and some guys are great at it. I can remember we would tweet out highlights of Bijan picking up pass protection because
he just destroys
He's
people.
Like a dog. That's how you go 7th or 8th overalls. Okay, you can do it all.
And I'm not meaning to say that means he shouldn't be their starting running back. I don't want to pay him $15 million a year, though. And like Joe said earlier, I've got to have another guy now. Mm-hmm. I got to have another guy that's good at what he does because the Eagles, their second guy, it doesn't really matter how good he is. They'll just plug in whoever and figure it out. Barkley's going to be the dude in every situation. And McCaffrey is that for San Francisco. Jacobs is that for Green Bay. Like, a lot of the high-paid running backs are that. And Cook is a guy that has a deficiency, so he should come in the second tier.
It's not lost on me when people say, well, considering you don't have great receivers, Cook is your most explosive player, and that makes him more important. I agree with that. I don't think that's how I want to live, where my most explosive player is my running back. I don't think I want that. But that is the case right now. And he is very good. So, whatever. It's not a pressing issue. They don't have to fix it right now. They can extend him. Shakir got his extension. Bernard could get one. Benford could get one. Rousseau could get one. Cook could get one. And I feel like Cook is maybe the least pressing of them because he is a franchise tag candidate. And if he's going to sit out, like, okay, the team will still be good. Running backs don't really win when they sit out. The team is about the same. I think a running back is a finishing piece to an offense. That's what Barkley was to the Eagles for me, was they're already good to great, and he brings them to be more threatening and get other teams to think about him more. And for Cook, I like him a lot, but I mute. Wouldn't worry about it.
And I would like to know how much the Bills are really willing to kind of test him, to kind of push him. Because if this were Madden and I were be a GM and I'm the Bills, I know exactly what I would do. I would not pay him. I would let him play year 4 on his rookie contract, and then I would franchise tag him. And I would play him that year, and then he'd be 28 years old, and I'd walk away. That's exactly what I would do. Yep. And to me, just take the person out of it. That seems to me to be the best course of action.
That might be the best course of action financially.
That's what I mean.
The question is, do the Bills care about how the rest of the players feel about
That's what I mean,
how you treat James Cook?
Yeah, because if you do that, maybe that doesn't sit well with certain guys. It's not typically how they do business in general.
Right.
They've earned the reputation they have as an organization probably because they don't do things like that.
Right.
That's a very cold way to approach this situation. I think it's just, in their own minds right now, we're going to play him in year 4, then we're going to tag him. Basically, we're going to hold him hostage for 2 years. He wants to get paid now, and we're not even going to tell him this, but in our own minds, we're never paying him.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep him from getting paid because by the time he's 28, like, teams are going to know that his market value is not as high at that point when he's a little older.
Yep. 803-0550, if you want to chime in on this. Cook, what to do there? Well,
I did look at he's selling merch now, too.
James Cook?
He's got a T-shirt, playoff Jimbo. He had one good playoff Jimbo. You can also buy a video message from James Cook, so he's going in. He's got the business on the mind.
As we talk about running backs, it's a good time for me to give you my stat of the day that I found yesterday that we never brought up on the show. Stat of the day. So, one of the things I was looking for, let me find it here. Pro Football. It was Pro Football Reference. Why was I doing this? Who are we talking about?
This is a running back stat?
Well, I was looking for wide receiver stuff and found a running back stat.
Okay.
Who are we talking about yesterday? Which receiver would it have been?
We talked about Adams a little bit. We talked about Slayton. We talked about Darius Slayton.
That's who it was.
Yeah.
So I found this by looking up Darius Slayton. I wanted to find what's his yards per target, right? He's been moderately productive in the Giants offense, doesn't get a ton of targets. The passing game has been a mess there. We know that. So receiving, I started to look at what can often be a good indicator, which is yards per target. Amari Cooper had a really good yards per target for the Bills, right? But not exactly, he wasn't on the field that much. When they threw to him, it worked pretty well. They just didn't throw at him that much. And if he wasn't on the field, or whatever, when he was on the field, they threw to him. They didn't treat him like he created a lot of gravity. Long way to say back to yards per target. Anyway, I was looking up yards per target and what Darius Slayton did. And in the process of doing that, I found something on the top 2 running backs in the NFL in yards per target were Ty Johnson and Ray Davis.
It's amazing.
So there's another piece about Cook. Your pass-catching back, the other 2 guys were the 2 best running backs in football in yards per target. You could you could take that to mean a lot of things. One, good job, Joe Brady. Nice job, Josh Allen. Extending plays, getting the ball to backs. Nice job, Ty Johnson. Nice job, Ray Davis. You could also, if you're someone like me who's endlessly obsessed with getting the Bills some actually good wide receivers, as many as possible, say, maybe give the guy that throws the ball down the field to running backs some receivers.
Yeah.
Top 2 in the league, yards per target at running back. Ty Johnson, Ray Davis.
He chucked the ball downfield against the Jets to Ray Davis.
Yep.
That was not like a screen that went for 70, although he had one of those too.
Ty Johnson in the playoffs against the Broncos.
Yep. He had a couple against the Lions too that were down the field.
Ray Davis had the big
Remember
outside, what was that? Late in the year, is that
Ray Davis on the outside?
Is that Miami?
Miami, I think it was a shorter pass.
Swing pass. But hey, that's yards per target. It's receiving yards, not just not distance.
Here's another one that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Against the Jets, they're up huge, right? Second half, whatever. Allen's going for MVP. They're just putting up numbers. They're running it up, and Allen scrambles out to the right. And remember, he throws the ball back across his body into the end zone.
Yeah, he's looking for Ty Johnson.
Coleman catches it for the touchdown. What does Allen say in postgame?
Yeah.
I was throwing it to Ty Johnson. I didn't even know Keon was over there. His intent was to throw the ball 40 yards
to a running back
to a running back at the back of the end zone.